And let me point out one more thing.
Okay.
You see a lot of curves here, Formant curves. Mm-hmm. What I did, and this was essentially true for this instrument. No, not this. I'm sorry, that's not the Formant bar.
It's the next page, 6 and 7.
I had two filter banks. These filter banks, which I used, and which are through the production of controls that I have here. I switched in and out the capacitors, and then I had variable capacitors of rather large values, so I could do sliding comments.
So this was like a bandpass filter.
Yeah,
that was movable.
It didn't move with the voices,
with the keyboard, right?
But it was movable, and now.
Could you move them as you played? I mean, with a pedal or something?
No, I didn't do it with a pedal. I did it manually. Now, there was one interesting thing. Let's say voice number 1 and 3 I assigned to one filter, and voice number 2 and 4 to another filter, or I could change at will these switches. This was voice 1, in up position was filter 1. Voice 2, voice 3, voice 4. Voice 4 was in this case selected to filter 2. Now, I had two expression pedals. One for the one filter bank and one for the other filter bank. So I could, maybe you should record this.
I am. I am. We're rolling.
So I could swell voices 2 and 4 against 1 and 3. Or, for that matter, voice number 1 against 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
Or I could now, with manipulation, hold a chord, and when I had voice number 1 emphasized on filter 1, I could now easily manipulate the switches so that number 2 would take over the lead, or voice number 3 would take over the lead, or voice number 4 would take over the lead.
In other words, become louder.
Yes, louder. Now, I also described in this paper the effect of complementary tone colors. In optics, you talk about complementary colors, and the spectrum of which excludes each other. And the same you can do with tones and get very pleasing sounds by having, for instance, voice 2 and 4 assigned to filters that exclude the spectrum of voices number 1 and 3.
Very distinct voices then.
Yes, they are very distinct voices. You can see it from the sharpness of the filter curves. And I really should translate this for you. So
why don't you? Yes.
Yes. So I can relate to figure 16, filter curves for the production of two voicings with formants, which, if distributed to different tones in the chord, make out a very good combination in a polyphonic setting.
If those filters were that sharp, what would happen when you played outside the bounds of it? That voice would disappear then, wouldn't
it? It would disappear.
So you had to be careful where you played on the keyboard.
Yes. When you look here, I had a peak here on this voice at, let me see.
About 1,500.
This is a misprint, incidentally. This is supposed to be 1,000 cycles. So it's around 1,500 cycles. Yes. This is 100,000.
That should have been 10 cubed. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Okay.
So this is a misprint.
It's a log scale.
Yeah. So I had the emphasis, but as you also see, there is enough coming up here, energy coming up at the high end. And in this filter, I have an emphasis on 2.5 kilocycles or kilohertz. So that is quite a high format. And I, at some place, I talk about complementary tone colors, and these are typically complementary tone colors.
What about keying? Did you have any kind of other than organ-like on-off keying? In other words, did you add envelope control?
Yes, I did. It's not described in this article, I think. No, it's not described in this article. It may be described in a later article. Let me see. Let's find. Here I simply describe it as gates.
I see.
Here I have the tone generators, and here I have gates. But it was included.
So it's possible to make other than organ-like attacks and releases.
Yes, definitely.
Could the note sustain when you let your finger off of the key?
I did not have any memory device.
Yeah.
No. So I had to hold down. But I kind of had developed this first instrument in such a way that I, for instance, could make a percussive tone on group number 1 and a sustaining tone on group number 2.
Mm-hmm.
It was very crude, but it was there. Now, the figure 17 filter curves for the production of a tone with formants and another tone with highly emphasized high overtones. Both result in a polyphonic combination when distributed over different voices, which is sounding pleasing. It's a little bit difficult.
I understand.
And figure 18 filter curves for the production of 2 different voices with high overtones, which go well together in a polyphonic sound. So one has more a limited formant, and it has really a emphasized dip here at about 2,000 cycles, this one here. But it comes up again, so it does have enough overtone content in order to be usable also at higher fundamentals.
What other technical details about this particular instrument were important? It's got an assignment system, and you're going to have to explain to me once again. I really never understood how the resistors worked. You'll have to show me when you press down one key, this happens, and then so and so.
Yeah.
This is figure 14.
Figure 14, yes. Let's go to the lowest row here. I have a resistor. This is the
R4.
R4 going to a bias of 150 volts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this resistor R4 is only a small series resistor to give you the beginning. Then you have additional. This is R4 dash, actually,
right,
or apostrophe, or whatever you want to call it. And then you have a number of resistors, which are tappings on resistor R4, which is the heavy,
like on a wire wound.
which is shown as a wire wound resistor.
Is that how it was done?
It was done, yes. It was done.
So you just touched on that elliptical.
I had, as a matter of fact, I had wire wound resistors on ceramic rods which were flat, and then I had wipers on these rods.
So it could be tuned.
So I could tune, yes.
Right.
No, this was
so the voices didn't all have to be necessarily an even and equal temperament, did they?
And no, you could.
Did you ever try anything other than equal temperament?
Not at that time, no. I was mainly after stability and being able to
be able to get 4 voices.
Yes, four voices. So you see, you have the whole resistor chain in the lower row, which means it's a relatively large resistor. Now, the connection goes through all these switches, and it's inked heavy, okay?
Right.
To the glow discharge tube, which is just an example.
Now, when you make a contact with the first key, is this bottom one the one that came into effect?
No. If I make a contact with the first key, like here, okay?
Right.
And of course, this oscillation circuit is no. I mean, it's of course it's not stable, so in reality, I didn't use it.
Right. No, not the glow lamp. I understand that.
No, it was only, again, to repeat myself, done at that time to not give away my ultimate secrets.
Right.
But if I now depress only one key, like it's shown here, and all these are in the up position, okay? Because they're not depressed. I only depress one key.
Right.
Then, of course,
excuse me, it shows other ones being made contact. Is that
which means I have depressed 4 keys here. But if I only depress one,
That would be the only one. Okay.
this would be the only one.
Each key then has 4 buses.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's really a little bit more than that. Yeah, it has 4 buses.
4 contact
four
points.
contact points
Yeah.
to 4 in the
Yeah.
individual.
But the first one down activates a certain row of resistors then.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the first one down, in this case, this here now, would activate this oscillation circuit and have this oscillate at a relatively high frequency.
Because there's less resistance.
Less resistance. Now, if I only have this depressed and nothing else, then of course this would be up, this would be
right.
up, and this would,
Yes, I see it now.
And so this would really go through an open end in the open. And likewise, these would end in
Yes.
the open.
Yes, I understand.
So
That's what I didn't understand before.
Yeah.
When I looked at the graphics, I saw other keys down up here, and that represents these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you depress the second key,
then of course now I would activate the second oscillator.
because the first
He has taken activated. So this would just
the band leader and everything.
well the high voice and the low voice of what you remember.
Oh, I remember that. It's
Okay.
absolute geography.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, and 4 occur from the highest, no matter what.
Yeah.
That's
You
the
could
priority.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Priority being such that if you play the highest note, that's oscillator 1. You play the lowest note, that becomes oscillator 2. If you play a note in between, the in-between note becomes oscillator 2.
Yeah.
And 2 is replaced by 3.
Yeah.
So it's absolute high note priority
Now
geographically.
I just want to say this. Are you already recording?
Testing. Yes, we're recording. Test, test.
I just want to add one more thing. I mean, there are quite a number of things, but let's assume you have a chord with 4 notes, and now you lift up the highest note, and then, of course, the leading note, if you made the first one the leading note,
Becomes number
over.
1.
It's now the second. What was the second note
Becomes the first oscillator.
becomes the first
Right.
oscillator.
So no matter.
Third one becomes the second, and so forth. So, and you can, this way, if you alternate the voices, as I pointed out before, that is, if you assign 1 and 3 to filter number 1 and 2 and 4 to filter number 2, you can get very interesting orchestral effects, like a set of saxophones, you know, dee-doo, 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 just by lifting up one the highest key, for instance.
Right, because it'll change all of the
Yes.
voices.
Yes,
All
yes.
of the voices will jump up a voice.
Yes,
Or
right,
jump
right.
up a channel.
Yes, yes,
As you change that up and down.
yes,
2 becomes 3, and 3 becomes 4,
Yes.
and 1 becomes 2,
yes. So,
or 2 becomes 1 the other way.
yeah.
2 becomes 1, 4 becomes 3. It always works to the
Yes,
highest note.
yeah,
Right.
right. So if you use this instrument right, you can achieve quite some interesting orchestral effects. Now, we were talking about Warnke, and I think the Warbo Formant orgel. And first of all, Warbo is the combination of Warnke, Warnke. His first name was
Christian, right.
Yes, and Bode, the last syllable of the word. And we called it the Warbo Formant orgel because it was working with formants. So he used it, he was a band leader in an entertainment band, and he used it in his band.
That was in the fall of 1937
Yeah,
when he actually started using it.
yes, yes. And then he wanted to have a bigger organ, so we built a bigger organ that was close to the war. The bigger organ is also shown in this publication. It had 2 manuals.
Did this use the same assignment
Same
principle?
Assignment principle.
With 4 on each manual?
This was used with a single melody manual up, the upper manual, a accompaniment manual with 4 voices, and a pedal for single voice.
Right.
This, incidentally, is the interior of the experimental organ, which is shown on figure 13. So 13 is the exterior, and 19 is the interior.
Right, and 20 is the later
20
model.
is
What did
the
you
later
call
model.
that?
Also, the same thing. It was just a bigger model. And that was so close to the war that work couldn't be continued because of other priorities
Right.
in general. So I then in the meantime, had worked on a melody instrument which used the same oscillator because I liked that oscillator quite well. And that instrument was called the melodium, a single voice instrument. And the melodium, I think, is shown here in the same publication, yes, on figure 7.
That was after the Warbo organ.
That was after the Warbo organ because it was not as involving with maintenance and stability problems and so forth.
So what became of Warnke and the Warbo organ? Did he, it was because of the war that essentially production?
It died down because it couldn't be pursued any further. I mean, there was evidently some more work required to perfect the idea. He used it, but to a limited extent. Eventually, after the war, because of our friendship, he got a bigger organ, which was built from the synchronized Hartley oscillators, which was the predecessor of the SD organ, which I told you about before.
But that was not an assignment.
That was not an assignment.
Right. But that must have been in the late 40s then.
That was, yes. That
or the
was
mid-40s.
No, that was even in the early 50s.
I see.
Yes. Now, getting back to the melodium, the melodium was really the predecessor of the mellochord. Only the melodium was built rather simple. It had a pressure-sensitive keyboard. On the individual keys were constructed as seesaws. So if you
so the fulcrum was in the middle of the
middle
key?
of the key, yes. So if you depress the key in the front, it lifted up in the rear, and across all the keys in the rear was a light aluminum rail, which was lifting up and actuating a volume control. So this way, I had touch-sensitive playing, and the more I depressed the key...
Is figure 10 a detail of that?
This is figure 10, which shows the detail of it.
Where's the aluminum rail?
This perforated...
the ones with the holes in it, yes.
On the front. And evidently, it looks like this key where the shadow is, it's pretty much in the middle of the picture.
It's raised.
It's raised to lift up this rail.
Very interesting. A force-sensitive instrument.
Yeah,
and when was the melodium then?
1939.
Very interesting.
38, 39.
But then you consider that the predecessor of the mellochord. Perhaps that should be on the second article.
Yeah, and the mellochord, also the first mellochord, which I built, had force-sensitive keyboard. And that had a single 5-octave keyboard, which was split up into 2 ranges, a bass range, which had 2 octaves, and the treble range, which had 3 octaves. And
by this time, you had extended the Formant concept to actually move along with the keys.
That was then in a later model, which was built around 54 Cologne. Yes.
Well, I really don't want to get into that because I want to do that on the second article.
Yes.
And I just want to center in on this.
Yes.
You made a comment, you started to make a comment last night about history and the distortion of history. And I wonder if you would pursue that, the concept of what happens, why it gets distorted.
First of all, history may not always be distorted willfully. It is just ignorance. It's because people don't go to libraries and don't read, so they don't know what is known. And we have a typical example of distortion of history here when we talk about the assignment principle, which now is something new. And it really was nothing new. It was done in the late 30s. We can go further, of course, and I'm not the kind of guy who wants to step on anybody's toes. So I understand that this is not being broadcast.
Yeah. But I do want to quote you in the article.
Yeah.
So
things have to be put into perspective. We can go even so far as to saying who introduced the modular synthesizer.
Let me turn this. Yeah, you were discussing the introduction of the modular synthesizer.
Yes. Well, here things have to be put into perspective. I take credit for being a vital part in introducing the modular synthesizer concept. And I set up created a modular system in early 1960, on which I reported the same year, in the fall of the same year, at the convention of the Audio Engineering Society.
Yes, the paper in 1960?
Yes.
What did you name it? A novel instrument for the production of?
Wait a minute. Novel instrument also for the exploration of unknown electronic music performances. You better look it up.
Yeah, was it the sub-harpsichord?
Pardon me?
Did you call it the sub-harpsichord?
No.
No, or something else. I think I am going to have to flip this now. Okay. We're on the air.
You hopefully have the that reprint.
That'll come later, though.
Yeah.
Let's do that on another article.
Just on the subject of distortion of history. I'm sometimes a little bit sensitive about things when they're being put out of perspective. As far as the contribution of Moog is concerned, his major contribution was the introduction of the voltage-controlled modules.
Absolutely.
And of creating the exponential interface so
ratios
instruments could be keyboard controlled. And the introduction of the various modules as oscillators, filters, those were the main components. As far as introducing the modular concept, synthesizer concept, that was taken over from where I started in 1960. But I mean, if we put this in this perspective, then it's fine.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
You mentioned something, though, about the commercial aspect of distortion, not the ignorant aspect, but the other part.
Yeah, of course, the commercial aspect of distortion is so that sometimes innovators are being downplayed and being kind of deprived of their credits. It is hard for me to go into details. I would really have to think in order to...
Before you got quoted.
Before I get quoted.
That's all I'll say. You'd have to think further about it before you could get quoted.
Well, I don't know if we should jump the gun. I don't know. I mean, you be the judge. You know enough now about my background.
No, I think people should be told the truth, Harold.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever hurts to tell the truth, even if it hurts for a little while.
Yeah.
But I think the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of charlatans in the field now.
Yeah.
A lot of marketing people that are blowing up firsts that weren't really firsts. And it's one thing to do. Shakespeare said it right. He who steals my purse steals trash.
Yeah.
But when you steal a person's accomplishments, that's really all we have.
Yeah.
And that bothers me very much.
Yeah.
Were there any other comments that would be appropriate for this article, like your, earliest training or any other things? I want to center mostly on this Warbo organ because I think it's very interesting how it relates to the assignment thing today.
My training really is not related to this. I have a degree in physics, which means I can handle the math part of electronics. I happened to graduate under a professor who was very electronics oriented, whatever you call that in those days, because that was in the early 30s.
Sure.
But I had a good foundation in as much as he already saw, and that was at the time when people were mainly experimenting around, diddling around, doing things empirically, and he emphasized that everything that can be done can be formulated mathematically and can be handled scientifically. And that was a good teaching for me, and that was a good foundation. So as far as that is concerned, that is...
But in your work, I suspect you did some of both.
Aspect. Sometimes I had to find the results before I explored how it happened. And so that is one of my backgrounds. My background is really twofold. One is my background of formal schooling, as I just said. The other component of my background is my upbringing, my home. My father was a performing musician, an organist, a music theoretician, and a music writer. So,
Church organist?
yes, church organist.
Where was
And,
this?
in Hamburg, Germany.
Hamburg?
Yes. And so I grew up with hearing good music, good harmonies, and modulations, everything in the home. So this, of course, if you grow up with this, it stays with if you are talented to start out with. So there was a good motivation from two sides to implement electronics and to do music. Mm-hmm. And there came a crucial point in my development as a person, the development of my personality, when I had to make up my mind, what do I want to do? I had so many options. And I decided to make a synthesis out of these two backgrounds and combine my interest and my knowledge in electronics with my motivation and interest in music. Mm-hmm. And this is how everything came about.
Do you think there's an argument between technology and music now?
You mean at this day and age?
Yes, now.
An argument of what kind?
A lot of people say that electronic instruments are too technological.
This is always depends how you handle them. If you handle I have heard the comment of engineer's music, which is a good term, and which really points out it's always possible that the majority of the people does not know how to handle any musical instrument, especially an electronic musical instrument. And sometimes it's also the fault of the electronic music designers. They just put a few gimmicks into the instrument, make it sound like something like it sounded on the popular record Pipapo, and off you go, and you grind out your merchandise and make your millions. But it doesn't help the music market, or doesn't help the expression of the individual. But given the right instrument, which usually has to be a more selective instrument, and given the right artist, you can make very expressive and very musical sounding music with electronic means. And I would say, if you handle it right, you have much more freedom of expression, much less limitation to the instrument that is built so or it's built so in the electronic music direction than the conventional instruments. So that's my opinion. On the piano, after all, you can only play piano. You can play piano by dynamic expression, but you are extremely limited, although this is a very successful instrument. The violin is something different. On the violin, you have tremendous number of degrees of freedom and of expression.
Which means you can manipulate the sound in direct contact.
Yes. It takes quite some manipulation means to make an electronic instrument that expressive, but if you want to, you can.
That implies, though, that the interface, the thing that the musician puts his hands on, is very important.
It's very important. You have to have, you should, if you want to move in that direction, have all means of interface manipulation possibilities that you can think of.
That's why, for instance, on the Melodium, the pressure-sensitive keyboard, very early you realized that it's more than just making oscillators.
Oh, yes, and it sounded very musical. I remember that people got tears in their eyes, you know. And as a matter of fact, I had a radio program on Radio Munich. They had an experimental for 3 weeks in a row, prime time in the morning after the news. And then they canceled it because it was just a pilot, and they had to continue it, and they had to take it up again because I had so many letters from the listeners.
Playing the Melodium?
Yes. And that was the mellow chord, pardon me. That was the mellow chord, but that had the same expressive as the Melodium.
What year would that be?
That was 1940. It started in 1947. I had programs, radio programs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I want to just backtrack a little bit. I had for the two voices, I had an expression pedal for each voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, and the voices were tuned in such a way, the parts of the keyboard, that I could cross voices. They were not really
Not by crossing your hands, but by playing in different parts of
Yes.
a split
Yes,
keyboard.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. That was on the mellow chord.
And that was the first middle chord.
Right.
So it was very expressive.
On the Warbo organ, you had this two pedal
Yes.
thing also.
Again,
That was 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. Is that
or whatever
assignment?
I chose, whatever I chose.
Not only were the notes assigned by the keyboard, but they were assigned to different filters, and the pedals were assignable.
Yes, right.
Were there any other features? Was it touch sensitive in the?
It was not touch sensitive, but it did have the percussion.
Right, so you could change the attack.
Yes, I could play piano and accompanied by strings.
Singing sound.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.